All right, before we call the meeting to order, George, you want to meet me at the podium? I'll go ahead and swear you in as Secretary of the Board of Directors.
Sir.
All right. Okay, so as you know, you are also the Secretary of the Board of Directors, so that's what this information is for. So I, state your name,
I, George Kroll,
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
I, George Kroll, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear truth and fair allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
I will bear truth and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which have been endowed upon me,
Which you're about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
All right.
Got it close.
Yeah, I know, you did really well. Thank you so much.
I've done this enough, I should have done better. I get a B minus on that one.
Is this the one in the one from the board package this weekend? Yes. It's no action, but I got a phone call already on it today. We'll talk later.
Okay, this is, I'll call to order the regular board meeting of Monday, September 11th. And before we say the pledge, I would like to, as we're saying the pledge, please let's have a little remembrance for September 11th, 2001, and for all those first responders and all the people that were lost during that. So with that, George, would you lead us in the pledge for your first meeting?
Yes, I would. Put your hands over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Lauren, roll call, please.
President Boyd is absent. Vice President Kaczynski.
Present.
Director Griffin.
Present.
Director Rotora.
Present.
Director Usainamon.
Present.
Thank you. And the posting of the agenda declaration.
The agenda for today's regular board meeting was posted on Friday, September 8th, 2023.
Thank you. A conflict of interest declaration.
Vice President Kaczynski.
None.
Director Griffin.
None.
Director Rotora.
None.
Director Usainamon.
I don't have any conflicts of interest, but I must inform you that I am an employee of the federal government. However, any opinion I express tonight is mine and mine alone. It does not necessarily reflect that of my employer. Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, public questions and comments on a closed session. Do we hear anybody online? Does not look like it. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and move into closed session at 4:34, we'll call it.
on BLM property. It circles over by Skip Gorman's house, behind the cemetery, and then goes on the city property across.
As soon as Jim gets here, we'll
by
start.
The housing, the base housing that they got set up out there. Cause see, that's what I was just, they used 1,500 cubic feet last year through meters.
Here's our illustrious attorney. He's on the way, okay.
There's Travis.
I know. If we've got everyone present, which it looks like we do, I'll go ahead and reopen the open session at 6:07. And with that, I would like for Jim to go ahead and tell us what happened in closed session.
Board met in closed session. No action was taken that requires disclosure under the Brown Act. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll open up for public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desired to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time the item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you are recognized by the chairperson, please state your name and address, but I think we almost know everybody here. So is there any public comment? Oh, we don't know you. You can introduce yourself. Podium. And before you get started, I'll go ahead and for the people that are here, maybe the ones, if there's anybody watching online, we can introduce our new general manager for those who haven't met him, George Kroll here, who just joined us.
Thank you.
I already have one. Yeah.
Well, he's passing that out. I'll just say that I am extraordinarily excited to be here. I've been here for about a week. The staff and the people here at the Indian Wells Valley Water District are fantastic people, and it's a fantastically well-run organization with fiscal responsibility, and I'm very impressed with the operation they have here. So just a
Thank
quick
you.
comment.
All right.
I'm
Please.
David Doremus, and I gotta say, I'm glad that we have water.
Is that mic on?
Hello, hello?
There you go. You need to get a little closer to it. There you
Need to
go.
get a little
There you
closer
go.
to it. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, representatives, audience. I want to speak about our most precious resource we have in our country, water. Without it, we're no place. And I've spent my entire life watching the Columbia River be dumped into the Pacific Ocean. And, just to give you a little bit of context, that's 200 billion acre feet a year wasted. In case you can't wrap your heads around it, 65,000 trillion gallons a year thrown away. It's worth $30 trillion. It could pay off our national debt. It's really simple. We built pipelines from the Columbia River down to California, to Arizona, to New Mexico. We could flood the Southwest. We have more than ample amounts of water. We just have a lot of people in the Northwest that they're scared. They're scared that if the South starts taking any of their water, they're going to come take it all. And there's a solution to it. It's not an engineering problem. We built a 12-foot diameter pipe for phase one down the continental shelf from the Columbia River, pick it up at Bonneville, bring it 200 feet underwater, back up and just north of Monterey Bay, dump it into the California aqueduct system. The next pipeline goes down to San Diego and on to Arizona. It's been talked about for 60 years, mostly overland routes. That's all we have is talk. In '92, I ran for the United States Representative in Idaho. I mentioned that it was criminal that we're throwing away the Columbia River. Obviously, I didn't get elected. It's toxic. But there's a solution to it. And the solution is that we need to create an economic incentive and give the Northwest control of that water. Western long-standing policy of first in use, first in right. What we have to do is get a consortium of the 11 states that we can all come together and say, okay, it is the Northwest water, like OPEC to the west of the Northwest. They can take that water, they can claim it, and they can sell it. The important thing is by them selling it, not only does it make them economic revenues, but they control the throttle so that they can assure that they'll never run out of water for their own domestic needs, current or future. What I'm proposing is that we take as little as 2%, which is what will flow. It's 2 billion acre feet a year coming down to the San Joaquin Valley. At $200 an acre foot, that's $400 billion a year worth of water. We give that to the Northwest states, let them divvy it up how they want. Actually comes out to $25,000 per resident. It's a big economic incentive. And only by getting the citizens behind can we ever get the representatives behind it and the governors. And without all 11 states, we go no place. We could build this project in 30 months or it could take 50 years. You know, we need the water. It's crazy that we continue to throw it away. And $30 trillion worth of water, we could pay off our national debt. You know, this is craziness what's going on. The concept of giving the Northwesterners money for their water, I don't see that any different than in Texas. You know, they found oil under their land. Okay, good for them. Well, the Northwest has water under theirs. They need to be able to sell it. Ultimately, it's going to come down here anyhow. We need to move that process along, and we need to do it now because we have a severe water shortage. I guess this is where the water board comes in. I'm in process right now that I'm undertaking a journey to visit every state capital, Washington, D.C., every water board that I can get a hold of, every engineering company that has an interest. I'm just an independent individual. I'm 74 years old. I've been a real estate developer my entire life. I know the value of water. I've drilled many, many wells to do my subdivisions, including up in the Santa Maria and Guadalupe area. And we have the water. We just are not distributing it equitably in the West. And we continue to throw it away. And ultimately, it's going to come here. And if the Northwest doesn't work with us, then someday California has a lot more representatives than the 56 in the Northwest. What I'd like to have, if I could, is sponsorship from this water board. I would like to have assistance in drafting legislation that might be appropriate for all the various states. I'm going to do the heavy lifting on this. I'm going to be spending the next 6 months, 7 months of my life from representative to representative. I've done it before. I've run a campaign. I intend on meeting with probably 30,000, 40,000 people over the next 6 months, and I could sure use your help. I'm really tired of this political charade that's gone on for 60 years. It's criminal. We need that water, and we need it now, and not 50 years from now. And I thank you very much. If there's any questions.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
I'm curious, have you spoken to the people in Inyo County?
This is my first water board that I've actually contacted. I've sent out a bunch of emails. I've got contacts in Sacramento right now. I'm just starting this mobilizing this campaign. I found that emails don't work very well. You said you probably received one?
Right.
Okay. Oh, perfect. I think it has to be direct mail. More important, I have to sit in everybody's office and explain to the secretary and then the chief of staff that, we're coming. We need your assistance and support. I'm going to have very poor reception in the Northwest. I expect to have very good reception in the Southwest.
Okay.
Well, what I'm thinking is that if Inyo County knew there was a way of reducing the amount of water that the LADWP took from Inyo County, and this pipeline could provide cheap water to LA, then you might have a real advocate in Inyo County.
Chandler did a really good job of stealing the water. And we need to make that Columbia River available for the other western states. We have more water up there than we can ever use in California. We can flood the state. We can replenish all of our groundwater aquifers. We just need to get the pipeline built, and we need to do it hopefully in our lifetimes.
I would just like to make a comment that I appreciate you presenting this tonight, and I want to give you some advice. If you're going to present it to water boards, you probably want to be added to the agenda, because we cannot legally comment or make any decision. So you want to ask to be put on the agenda in the future, so it could be discussed.
I do appreciate
in your
that.
future.
And actually, I'd written an email a couple of days ago, and I stopped in here to see if there'd been any reception at all. And they said, hey, there's a board meeting coming up. So I'm here.
Yeah, so just ask to be added to the agenda. That
Yes.
way it can be discussed.
And, but hopefully you discuss it afterwards, that I need support.
The other option would be, if you're interested, is to allow him to talk to your general manager, and then, George could bring it back to you when he had more information.
That's what was my recommendation. First of all, David, thank you for your emails, but as a board of directors, responding to you back and forth could constitute something we need to do in public. So
How did we get there?
I agree with Chuck Griffin that it may be that you want to, and with our illustrious attorney there, you may work with George, our new general manager, get more information together, and if he sees that maybe it's worth doing a more detailed presentation, then it may be something we can get on the agenda, and that way we'll know what we're looking at supporting, things like that. So that's my recommendation.
It probably doesn't work right now. Tomorrow I leave for Vegas, and from Vegas I'm off to Phoenix, and from Phoenix I'm off to Tucson. The lobbying campaign has started, and I'm just, this is my first presentation. I've talked to a lot of people about it. The mechanics have actually come before the board, and I do appreciate you giving me that input, and I'll use that in the future, that water boards are very important. What's really important is, public support.
Absolutely.
So after this meeting, I'll get you a phone number, contact for myself.
Thank you very
You
much.
Call
and
me
thank you
up
for
and
listening to
we
me.
can
And I've got
discuss.
some brochures over here and information, and if anybody's interested, let's get the job done.
Thinking
I
outside.
get nothing out of it. I'm 74, and America's been great to me, and I've been very successful, and I don't want to go to my grave and leave this challenge unfulfilled. It needs to be done.
Well, we need people to think way outside the box, definitely. So thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
Do we have any calls? What's that?
That's outside the box.
It's outside the box for us. All right, do we have any calls that are holding for public comment? Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Renee Westelusk. I just have a question. It has to do with, actually two questions. With committee meetings, there was a discussion of alternate water sources at the Water Management Committee meeting on August 31st. And I was wondering if someone could explain what is the plan. There was a mention in the minutes of that meeting that they were thinking of trading LADWP water and power aqueduct water for the Indian Wells Valley water in Inyo County. I wasn't aware that the water district owned any wells in Inyo County. Is that what
Chuck,
that?
can you,
Yeah, we did have that discussion, somewhat of that
What?
discussion, Renee, but the water district does have a well in Inyo County that we do have a pumping right to. And so we were just talking about different solutions that we felt might be another alternate source of imported water into this valley.
Okay. So that would be imported water from Inyo County?
Yes, that's what we were discussing, that we feel it could be an option at some point.
Okay. And you're saying it would be transferred through the LADWP aqueduct?
We did not there was no determination how we were talking about importing it to get it here. We were just bringing up ideas that we thought that we had some ideas
on other solutions, and that's why we were discussing it.
Okay. And then I just have another question regarding the arsenic treatment facilities. There was another meeting on September 5th, Tuesday, the Plant and Equipment Committee meeting, and there was a discussion about the Plant 1 got, I guess, the the filter media or something got damaged by the tropical storm Hillary, heavy torrential rains we got. Is there going to be any expansion of that discussion under arsenic treatment facilities tonight? An explanation of what happened and everything?
Yeah, I can explain further on that.
Jason, do you want to
Okay.
do it now, or you want to wait till we talk about the arsenic plants facility? It's up to you.
Well, I can do it
All
now.
right.
They got wet during the rain. We had no place at that time to store it. It did not get damaged. It just got wet. And when you're trying to filter it out, getting it wet does not help that process. So that's all the report was, is that it got wet again and that we have to wait for it to dry out again.
So does that mean you can't use Plant 1 then for indefinite period of time?
We haven't used Plant 1 this whole season. The plan is to, and I will talk about this later, but the plan is to get it all sifted this off season and have it ready to go for the next season.
And then does Plant 2 go not unused then if you're just using one
Plant-
arsenic treatment?
Plant 2 is
plant?
currently online.
But it won't be all year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Renee. Do we have anybody else? All right. Hearing no more under public questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, who's this guy? It's that haircut that threw me off.
I actually got them all cut. My name's Travis Reed, the Deputy City Manager. Know most of you guys all by first name, other than yourself, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you. I just am here to show some thanks and condolences for all your guys' help during the Tropical Storm Hillary. Your operators, your crews, your staff were amazing. If it wouldn't have been for some of your staff members, I can say I think we would have lost multiple homes on Javas. So it was absolutely crucial to our efforts, and we greatly appreciated all the sandbags that you guys donated or helped us with. It was, I can't put into words how the community felt, how we felt, and how nice it was to know that when things hit the fan, we can all kind of band together and get it done for Ridgecrest. And with that, to show our thanks, we had a plaque made for you guys.
All right.
They're very heavy.
Don't throw it.
So they're very heavy. It's rock. We thought it was quite.
Did you carve
fitting
that
for what we got
yourself?
here?
Yeah.
So again, on behalf of the city, thank you guys so much for all the help. Without John Svica and Dan Beardsley and Sam Molina and Jason and Renee and everybody that helped out, I don't think we would have come out the way we did. So
Well,
thank you guys.
thank you. And the staff thanks you.
And I want to say, I think the city did a great job. So thank you for that. You guys still cleaning up, but the city looks good. You guys did good.
Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
All right, no other callers? Then we'll move on to the current business and committee reports. The first is the consent calendar, approval of the board minutes and the accounts payable disbursements, approval of meeting minutes from August 14th, and approval of the accounts payable disbursement. Do I have any motions?
Also move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. Oh, I should ask one last thing. Public comment. See, it's been a long time. Any public comment? All right, hearing none. Vote. See, David, it has been a while. You're supposed to remind me.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
I promise to nag you more thoroughly in the future.
Okay, out of the Administrative Executive Committee, we have the Water Smart 5-year contract renewal. And the board is to review the 5-year renewal at Water Smart and make a recommendation. The committee recommends approval. But Ty, do you want to go over that briefly?
Sure. It's been 5 years since we first started with Water Smart, so that contract is coming to an end. So they reached out, they gave us 3 options, basically a 1-year, a 3-year, and a 5-year renewal. All the years were the same costs, but if we do a 5-year, we're locking those rates in for the next 5 years. We do have a pretty good outreach as far as with leaks and whatnot with the system. About 80% are receiving those leak notices. And we have about 12% that have signed up for actual accounts. But if we have that contact information, we're still able to reach out even if they are not signed up with an actual account. So, yeah.
And this is budgeted?
This is budgeted, yes.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board?
I believe that the Water Smart effort is critical, especially when if you have a major leak, it can rapidly devolve into tens of thousands of dollars of groundwater authority fees. And although you might be able to get a forgiveness from the board of directors for the water district, we can't control
That's right.
whether the GA can provide a forgiveness for a one-time leak. So I'm in favor of renewal.
Right.
I'll make a comment on that. Had discussions, and our ability to do forgiveness is somewhat limited under the new rate structure. So it is, that's another reason to be extra supportive of the Water Smart program. The current, I guess, as it was described to me, the current rate structure, Ty, correct me if I'm wrong, really only covers our basic fees to the Groundwater Authority, and our ability to reduce is not an option at this point in time. Is that correct?
Correct.
And also, I mean, how much has Water Smart contributed to any conservation we've done? I'm sure there's been people who've caught certain leaks and stopped them just in time, so it also contributes to the amount of water that we use, so I'm supportive of it as well. Do I have any other comments from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none from the public, I guess that we need, since need to vote on this one, do you not, Ty, for his contract?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 5-year renewal with Water Smart.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Hearing that, I'll call for the vote. And it passes, 4 yeses and 1 abstain. All right, next item under B is Assembly Bill 102, Budget Act of 2023, Department of Water Resources Fund. Briefly, this is entering into the agreement with the state of California to receive the funds for the Indian Pipeline. So we have to have a board vote on that. And then with that said, if the board votes into positive for that, then it'll move on for the general manager to sign the document. Now, it's in here, it's a pretty lengthy document, but all they're asking for is I'll tell you what, I'll go to Ty real quick. Is there anything in here that's out of the ordinary? It's pretty boilerplate, is it not?
Right. We just need to fill in the amounts and the schedule into the contract. As far as the resolution, it just gives the general manager the authority to sign that agreement once we get it filled out. Yeah, flashback. That was because Travis was here.
Yeah, he threw you off a little bit, didn't he?
He sure did. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board to Ty or about the document?
Yes, I was curious, do we have to be specific as to what pipeline that we are going to spend the money on? Or how specific, I guess, do we have to be?
Yeah, this one is for the Inyo-Kern transmission pipeline replacement.
Project specific.
And we have to specify that
Yes,
specifically?
we have to specify a project.
Okay, I guess I'm all in favor of working the Inyo-Kern pipeline, but my concern is that we've got 2 estimates for that pipeline. First one was $4.9 million. The second one was $16.9 million. This grant is for $3 million, And if we dedicate this money to that particular pipeline, and it turns out that the actual cost comes in at the higher number, how long do we have to come up with the rest of the funding? And can we come up with the rest of the funding in a timely manner? Oh, and pardon me, and I guess the part two of the question is, can we amend this contract at a later point in time if indeed we decide that it's more reasonable to instead of applying that 3 million to the Inyo pipeline, instead apply it to the Springer enlargement?
So first of all, we did receive two different estimates for the cost. One was kind of the regular through a contractor cost, the 4.9. Right now it's at 4.6 million. Anyways, the 16 million was a BABA compliant number that was required by the government, the federal government, for that DCIP project cost. So that was all American made, everything. That's why you saw that cost balloon up to that. We are not subject to that with the state money, so we would go back to the lower estimate.
So, and we're confident that the 4.6 million is a good number at this point in time?
We're pretty close. We're finalizing that. We're waiting on one more quote with fusible PVC, because the 4.6 is a HDPE pipeline, so we're looking at fusible PVC. So we believe we'll fall around 6 million when you add in inspections and incidentals and other things. We expect a maximum of 6 million. Now, remember, when we approved the budget, we did approve debt service for projects. So we are exploring the debt option to make up the remainder of that amount and possibly even cover Springer, because within the rates, we had, it was 7.7 million in debt service projected to do capital projects at that time. So we're kind of going that route and looking at what we can finance within the current rates to cover this project as well as the others that were on that list, which notably is Springer.
Okay,
And
well,
then-
great, that's good news.
Yeah.
Also, if we did it in-house, it could be quite a bit cheaper.
Right now, our estimates aren't proving that out.
Well, our cost for labor is already included, so it would just be our
Uh,
pipe.
The cost would be hiring temporary employees to be able to backfill our employees that would send out with the experience to remove and replace the pipeline.
And I'm sure you're exploring that, obviously you
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Okay,
So we're dialing that in, and we'll bring that back, of course, to the board to show you the options we do have.
And there's further discussion. I see item 8 under the general manager report is the transmission line. So if any other questions or thoughts come up, we can discuss it there. This particular thing that's on the table is just getting permission to our general manager to act on our behalf for any documents with the state.
right. No, this looks like it's actually feasible.
Right.
My concern was that we were designating money for a project that we could never complete in the next year or 2 or 3.
Well, we don't really have much of an option. We've got it. Yeah.
Well,
We've
I'll
got it
make a
completed.
motion to approve
Hey,
the resolution.
if you want, I'll take a second if you have, and then I'll ask for public comment. Have a second?
I'll do a second, yes.
Okay, to approve. Do we have any callers on the line about this particular item? Caller, you're on.
Yes, this is Renee Westelusk. I approve this. I think you should go ahead and get it done. That transmission line is very important. You got to get the ball rolling as quick as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I already have a motion and a second. I'll ask for the vote.
We have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Judy, you didn't bring cookies, so I don't know if I could. No.
I forgot to ask you what kind you like for this. Judy Decker. First of all, we are talking about the transmission line on 178, right? I don't know when it got to be called the Inyo Kern pipeline. You might think about that. It
Unicurn
might-
Road.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And that will exclude the pipeline that was already replaced. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be replacing the rest of it.
From Brady Street to Victor Street,
Correct.
correct? And the fusible PVC will join appropriately with, I do not believe it was PVC that was put in.
It's CMLC currently, and there would be adapters on each end.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
President Boyd is absent. Vice President Kaczynski,
Yes?
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Ratora,
Yes.
Director Sanama.
Yes.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item C, imported water, AVEC pipeline, board discussion of funding path for imported water. This is something that's coming up in the GA meeting come Wednesday, and I'm going to ask Chuck if he can give us a brief rundown. I believe there were two options for that funding.
Yes, thanks, Ron. I'll give you the best I understand it and make sure if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them. There's basically two different types of projects that they're requesting money from Congress. One is an environmental infrastructure project, the other is a water resources project. So one has a cost of around 50 million to the ratepayer, or to the valley. I won't say the ratepayers because the way they explained it at the meeting was that this would be a cost that they were gonna put on all the parcels. So the difference is, one was fully funded, or $15 million, I think was maybe their estimate for the other project. And this one is 50 million, and that's the one that they seem that like they want to go with because it can be done faster. The project time is 5 to 8 years. The other one is 11 to 13 years. So what they're asking for Wednesday is not to approve per se the pipeline project, but to approve asking Congress if they would set aside the funds to fund this pipeline for this valley. And they want to know which way, if any way, the board would like to move forward with requesting this grant. And so that's the decision. Do you go with the one that's going to cost 50 million, it's going to get done faster, or do you go with the cheaper one, but it's going to take longer because there's
Are they
more
both
costs?
federal grants? There's one out of the state.
They're both federal grants, and just to be clear, there's one that is 100% funding, and that's, then I think primarily the work would be done through the Army Corps of Engineers. Any issues that would arise, the Army Corps would address those, and that there would be incidental costs to the community, but they'd be the one time, but most of the costs are funded by the federal government. The other one, and the pipeline estimate is around $200 million. The other one is 75% with a 25% local grant, and that's where you get your 50 million price tag. I suspect if the estimate's low, then the 50 million would also go up as well. And I think Chuck said it right. The primary difference is, if you are willing to pay the 50 million, you might get your pipeline a couple of years earlier. I'm not sure what the estimate is, 5 or 8 years earlier with the sharing grant. That's all I got, Chuck.
Okay, thank you for helping me on that, Jim. And so basically, that's where the decision's at. To be honest with you guys, I have not made up my mind how I'm gonna vote yet. I have mixed feelings. We requested a lot of information from the GA, and I feel that if I'm gonna vote on this, I need to be very informed, and the district needs to be very informed on the anticipated cost of the pipeline, what it's gonna cost to run it each year, the cost of the water. I think we need to know all of those costs. And I don't wanna in any way put out that I'm supporting the pipeline project at this point. So I'm still up on how I'm gonna vote right now.
I want to remind the board that what we're doing here is I want to hear from each of the board members about their thoughts, everything from what their ideas are about the cost and the letters we've asked about costs with, and possibly, you know, what their recommendation might mean, but in no way is the board going to vote to tell you how to vote. So we're just going to go ahead and pass our, you know, you'll see how we feel about it.
Okay, correct, and I will make up my own mind.
Okay.
I'm just telling you guys that I do not know right now.
Okay. And we have Chuck Krieger. Chuck, are you on the line? Is he there? In case we have questions for him?
No.
Maybe he decided not to. Well, we'll hope we won't because we might have to get him online. So if you don't mind, David, I'll start with you about comments about this or any questions you have.
I don't feel comfortable supporting something where we don't really have a good idea of the costs. If they decide to go with the partially funded project, you know, that 50 million could rapidly expand.
Okay.
And you know, even though they may be distributed across many of the parcels, I can't imagine there isn't a solution where the water district and the mutuals wouldn't have to bear a large burden of that cost. So I would say my inclination would be to abstain until we had more information.
Okay. Chuck, are you on the line just in case we have questions? Is that Mr. Krieger? Are you there, Chuck? All right, you're there. In case we have questions, we're discussing that the item now.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. David, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
No.
Okay. Stan?
We got a letter from the GA just a couple of weeks ago that indicated that all the fixed costs may be paid by grants. And now we're being told that there could be as many as $50 million not paid by grants, but it would be paid by somebody else, but it wouldn't be us. And quite frankly, I'm not a believer, since we've already paid 90% of all of the money going to the GA, that we wouldn't get again, an unfair share of that funds put on us. And second of all, I think in line with what Chuck was saying is, it seems to me that if we vote either way, we're going to be looked at as an advocate for the pipeline. And I don't think we have enough information to be an advocate for the pipeline. So keep it simple and short. Thank you.
Boy, that is short. I might go a little bit longer. If people recall, a while back, we sent a letter to the GA requesting more information, cost per specific. I have the letter in front of me, but I'm not going to labor it. It was asking a lot of questions about the pipeline, cost occurred with it, quality of the water, how are we going to control the water, where's it going to go? In other words, what we were trying to ascertain was what is the bottom line cost of the district going to be? We received a letter in response which basically didn't answer all that. Yeah, you know, it didn't give us what we needed. In turn, then a request was made to them to fill out some kind of a chart or something that we create. Say, if you could fill these numbers in for us, to give us a chance so we can do our due diligence for our customers and bottom line understand what is the impact to the water district, both in cost to the water district, additional capital costs, as well as quality issues, then that could proceed with the board to move on and make some decision. We have yet to really have all that, and I'm of the opinion that it's hard to make a decision without knowing that. So I agree with the other two directors and possibly Chuck. Hopefully he's thinking this way too. Is that without that information, it's hard to say because you're going on. You know, are you putting the cart before the horse here? But you know, if you have a well-defined project, and I mean well-defined, you ought to be able to put down all these particular costs so that everybody fully understands them. And I think it would be improper. I think that the board would not be doing its due diligence. I don't think it'd be representing financially what we need to do until we have that information. So, and then I agree with Stan that, a yes vote I'm sure that we'll hear that, oh, they support the pipeline, which in this particular case, I'm not sure that we do yet. A yes vote would say it, a no vote would say, oh, you're obstructing it. So my recommendation is based on the fact we don't have the information that we've requested, and we've been working on this for getting this information for at least 30 days, maybe longer, and we just can't seem to get it. My recommendation would be that we just abstain from the vote because we don't have adequate information to make that decision. Yes, sir.
So they're going to go to these organizations with a grant, to request a grant for about $200 million.
Right.
So if we asked them for the data they were using to come up with that estimate, and they weren't able to provide that to us, if they've got a hard number like that, that information should have been at their fingertips, because that's when you're going to go forward and ask for that kind of money, you need to have that
Right.
information. So let's say they don't have the information as well understood as they should have, and suddenly it's now a $300 million project, and we've only gotten a promise to help fund $200 million now. So even in the case where it's fully funded, if they underbid what the project really is going to be, the people in the valley are going to be stuck with
And I agree with you there. And as far as accepting the project or not accepting the project, when you look at these kind of things, and this is just the capital cost we're talking about here, and you still have the capital cost of the water rights, which is supposedly coming on a replenishment fee. Then you saw the operating costs, which I don't know that everybody has a real good solid figure. I'm hearing $9 million a year, but I have to believe it's much higher than that. So these are all kinds of information that we don't have. I think if all that was in front of us and as accurate as could possibly be done at this time, and that we were, am I out of time? Oh, now I'm easy to lose. If we had all that information, and we also knew that every other project looked at wasn't viable, and they may be projects they may not have even thought about yet, that if no other project was viable and they could prove it to us, then maybe we can go full bore on this thing. But we just don't have the information we need to make that. And it's our responsibility as a board to protect our constituency, our ratepayers, and give them the best quality. And the quality issue comes up too. We don't know a lot about the quality. What's that going to do to our customers? We've always prided ourselves on quality. We're going to give the best water we possibly can for the lowest price, and we need to continue down that line. So I just feel we don't have enough information on this. It's not a yes, no, it's not a no vote, it's just we don't know, and so we have to abstain at this time. But Chuck,
Take a breath for just a second. I want to point something out. I don't know if you've looked at the packet for the GA's meeting on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
But the entire draft preliminary
Right.
design report. And according to an email that we got today or was it Friday, from Stetson, they sent us the preliminary design report and said that a lot of the cost estimate information was in the appendices in that report. So,
Right.
I haven't had a chance to look at all of it yet, but some of the information that they were not going to be filling out the spreadsheet we provided,
Right.
but that we could look at those appendices.
And that's where I'm going to go further. And what I'm going to do is get through all the board members, any other comments on this, and I'm going to make a final comment about that. So I'm done. Does anybody else on the board or staff?
I just wanted to follow up with
Yeah.
what Renee's saying. I did look at some of that today, and I anticipate
too.
that I will be doing that late into the night and tomorrow night before the meeting, reading everything. So, and I appreciate that they did include that, but I don't appreciate that they did not answer our questions and fill out our form. I think it was just a very simple question that we asked. We needed some costs, we needed some numbers. And so I am struggling with that right now, but I plan on doing my research, and I will read all that tonight. I also just received it today too, so.
Yep.
I do have a couple questions, Chuck, just maybe you can take to the Groundwater Authority Board. So when they say that they can apportion these costs to these various parcels, so when you look at the cost, there's a recurring fixed cost that essentially goes on in perpetuity. Perhaps that can be allocated. The other cost is a loan, which is going to have a sort of fixed duration. Can they also apportion that, or is that, I'm not sure how that works. And then there's the sort of variable cost of the amount of water you get. So you have at least three large pieces of funding, and I don't know the fiscal law well enough to really understand what could actually be apportioned to a parcel versus what, maybe needs to be paid through some other means. And I know there are folks who understand that stuff well at the county, but I don't know how you apportion a loan payment to a parcel versus a water payment that varies year to year. And maybe if you could get some clarity, that might be helpful.
Okay, and I will, and I'll try to get more clarity. I did ask that question in a roundabout way, and I was explained to at the last meeting, when this subject was brought up, I asked if we could put this off, because I was not ready to vote on it without our questions being answered. So I asked some questions, and it did ultimately get put off until this meeting on Wednesday. But the way it was explained to me was, I made a misstatement, and I said we had 11,000 ratepayers, and I guess we have around 13,000 hookups now. So I said I was concerned that we had 13,000 ratepayers that were gonna be paying a $50 million bill, and that's hard to swallow. I mean, to say that we can do that. So what they explained was that they planned on putting the cost of the project that was not funded through a grant and applying that as a parcel tax, so it would be charged to each parcel. We did not go into great detail about the actual water usage and how that would work. I have concerns like you do, because the amount of water that they're talking about will inevitably, if it's gonna go to our system, if we can even blend the water, we don't know what they treat with, what we treat with, it has to be compatible. I asked those questions about compatibility. But I also have questions when that water's there and we're not meeting the demand because we don't have the usage for the amount of water that's being put out. Where's the rest of the water gonna go? It can't just get pumped out on the ground, but it's gotta go somewhere because that line can't stay stagnant. And then what about the rest of the district wells that are gonna be sitting there not pumping? Because inevitably, they're not gonna be working anymore, so they're gonna sit there. And then if we had a problem, we needed to use those wells, then we have to go through a procedure. You can't just turn a well right back on if it's been sitting stagnant. It has to be flushed and pumped, and there's all kinds of issues that it brings up. So those are the kind of answers that I wanted, and I don't think I got them all, but I anticipate that I'm gonna ask those questions again and see if I get any different answers or where we go from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the board or here? Okay.
I just the discussion regarding parcel tax. Do you know, were they talking about a Prop 218?
Yes.
I'm assuming it would be Prop
Yeah,
218. I think it would have to be Prop 218.
To be fair, they did not come out and unequivocally say that it was going to be funded with the parcel tax. They said that was an option that they'd be willing to look at. You know, we've looked at this before earlier on in the GSP for other types of fees, and they've indicated on this one they'd be willing to, you know, explore that. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that they unequivocally made that decision, but it's something that they would entertain.
Explore. Yeah, so we don't even know if it's legal at this point in time.
Yeah, well, and where this all comes from is Mr. Hall made a comment during the last GA meeting about the parcel tax. That's why you asked him again, Chuck. He made it during that this can go on as a property type fee. And he made it clear that as long as the fee doesn't include one molecule of water. So that implies to me that it has nothing to do with the variable cost of getting the water or the water itself. It's only for the capital cost of the pipeline and maybe any other capital costs they can put into it.
Maybe O&M, I don't want to misstate or anything like that, but yeah, that's what they indicated about the parcel fee, and
Yeah.
that's about it.
And since Jim brought that up, I will mention that when we discussed the O&M, I asked that question, who is going to be maintaining this pipeline? The district doesn't know. We need to have more staff because we got 50 miles of pipeline you anticipate us taking care of, or how we're gonna do that. And I was informed at that point by Mr. Lemieux that the groundwater authority would be maintaining the pipeline and that they would be sending a letter to the district to let us know that.
And we haven't got anything, as I, okay.
Another point is, I just don't foresee a time when we're gonna turn our wells off.
No.
My feeling is that right now, our costs are significantly lower than anything that we would get from AVEC. And so for us to put the additional cost of this pipeline water, you know, rather than using our own water, just doesn't make any sense at all.
And Stan, I asked that question. I said, so what if the district does not agree to take the water? can you make us take the water? And the answer was, yes, I believe we can.
Well, it's always a possibility, we could take a tenth of it or a quarter of it, but why would we not use our own water that is cheaper where we can? And our water use is going down, so we need less imported water until our needs go up again. And based upon the state laws, I foresee our pumping going down for the next probably 5 years. So, it just doesn't come together.
Judy, I'll give it to you in just a minute. I want to ask Chuck Krieger a question. Didn't one of their proposals include deep injection for this water?
No.
Chuck, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
There's a significant delay, so pardon me. One of their proposals for deep well injection, I need some more clarification there, Director Kaczynski, with regard to the imported water?
Yes, I thought they had mentioned, I listened to all their meetings, that the most economical way is tie into the water district. Because if they have to look at actually basically recharging our aquifer, which I assume would be deep water injection, that drives up the cost, which I assume it would. I just was asking you if you had seen that anywhere in their analysis.
I don't recall, sir.
Okay.
I do know that they had some analysis of potential recharge via percolation basins.
Okay.
So I can't speak to the injection portion. I
Okay.
apologize.
But that would be the other option. If in other words, it didn't come to the water district, your only choice would be to percolate it or inject it. Is that correct?
Well, if it weren't directly delivered to the water district, you can either inject it or you can percolate it. So you can use recharge basins or a direct injection to the aquifer.
Okay, thank you.
But that would also
Cost.
require a different pipeline design because the area.
Right,
we're
a different
talking about
area.
making it now is not even percolated.
Additional cost if you inject it, all kinds of things. Okay.
Correct.
Director Kaczynski, I believe that the deep well injection was proposed or at least offered as a solution by Provost and Pritchard.
Okay.
But the GA chose to go with this
Okay.
pipeline project.
I thought I'd heard that too, and I thought it had a lot to do with cost because of the cost of well injection and such like that. Okay. I'll go. Judy, do you have something quickly there? Not quickly, but I'm sorry it took
I
so
think
long.
I'm going to have to make a lot of cookies.
Yeah, I know. Chocolate chip will do.
All right. I think I understand where you, the four of you, are coming from. Quite frankly, I do understand that. But I think you are either forgetting or not choosing to remember some of the issues. The pipeline project is not simply surveying in a route and putting in the pipeline. There's private land that will have to be purchased for the pipeline to go through, apparently. There are state and federal agencies who, as you well know from past projects, require mitigation money. All these things add to the cost of the pipeline. They add to the cost of the pipeline a lot, unfortunately. That's something for you to consider. The other thing for you to consider that should be a top priority is the limitations of our aquifer. We do not have an unlimited supply of water. Much of the water that is in our aquifer is exceedingly saline. Getting imported water to this valley, here's a gentleman who's talking about the Columbia River, is critical for the future of your children and grandchildren. I don't think at this point in time you have to worry about water in the pipeline, because thus far, unless we have a revelation on Wednesday, there isn't any. But you need to seriously consider going forward with this pipeline, because the only easy method to get imported water into this valley isn't feasible, and that is DWP sharing their aqueduct with the valley residents. And yes, I heard Mr. Hall say that a property tax would be added to all properties, and quite frankly, that's the first time I ever had heard that. So it's unfortunate that the GA staff and board and your staff and board can't somehow get together and work some things out. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Any other comments out there? No one calling in? I see none. Any more comments from the board? I have one last comment is, I still think it's important, and this is for Chuck Krieger and also for George, is I still think it's important that we as a district know what the long-term costs are to this valley. So we need to make every effort we can, along with the new engineering report that came out in the last packet. And yes, I did look at it, but not as thorough as I should have. But with that information, any information that we can glean from anything put out by the GA, I think it behooves us that we work on something that we can present to our ratepayers to show them. And we've talked about this many a time. So yes, they didn't fill out the spreadsheet, but what are the options for getting it filled out? I think it needs to be filled out. I think those answers need to be there. It forces a solid look at every aspect, and Judy brought up some of them. And we did talk about some of those, Judy, possible lawsuits, buying land, what kind of fight you can have with any environmental people that are up there, spreading water, where are you going to spread? I mean, I can go on and on about all the things that occur, and the GA does talk about them, and they have put some kind of a figure on some of those. I just don't know that it's all there, and that's what we're asking for. So I still think somewhere we need to come up with the numbers, complete that spreadsheet, and because our promise, we talked about this with you and Mel is working on, Mr. Sanderman, is a long-range plan for the water district. So if we come up with this spreadsheet, which shows the min and max, and you can say, okay, long range, I need to look at $60 a month or $200 a month, whatever it may be, and plan it into what we're looking at over the next, say 10 years. And Chuck, I know you're listening, so I'm hoping we can continue to work on that with the information you have, and we hear more about it, because I think it's very important for us.
I have something
Yes,
else
Judy.
to add. I believe at the last GA meeting, it was stated, I think by Capitol Corps, in fact, that a decision one way or the other has to be made this September at the September meeting for it to go to Congress for their appropriations bill.
You are correct, Judy. They said that it had to be voted on this month at this meeting, because they needed to get it submitted to be on the 2024, or it would not get done until 2026.
I have no doubt one's going to pass, whether you abstain or yes or no. One of them's going to pass. A quick question about the timing. From the last meeting I listened to, they're really worried that if they took the one that is the lower cost that could run up to 15 million for, that has to be, I'll call it matched or something, because it takes 11 to 13 years or longer. They were worried that if they got started, if we didn't complete the pipeline in time, that the state will come in and just take over the whole thing immediately. Was that the argument that I heard?
That was, and I don't feel that way. I think that if we are working on the project, I think the state's going to see that we're working on the project and we're midterm, if that's the way it's going. That's just my personal opinion, but they were concerned with that.
And that's important input. You're right. I mean, I don't believe the state's going to come in and say, look at this, you're 3/4 of the way done, but you're late, so we're going to shut you down and take over. So that's an argument for the one that is a lower upfront cost. But it's longer time.
I thought I heard that's what they agreed to as well.
No, they were going,
Even the GA lawyers said that if we're actively working on it, we've got a schedule that we're online with, that the odds of them shutting us down would be very, very slim, is what
And I
thought I
believe
remember.
that's what Keith said also. I think
Yeah.
he led to that because Director Vallejo asked the question. And Keith led to that he felt that it was probably, they would not take over because you were working on a project. So I do want to make a comment, and I hope I can speak for everybody. Judy made a comment about taking an action on this pipeline. And I don't want Judy to feel in any way that me personally, and I don't feel the rest of the board is against imported water for this valley. I'm not against imported water. I know we need to have water, but I feel there's other options that have not been explored, or maybe there's other solutions that we could work, that I'm not against the groundwater authority, and I'm just not sure that I'm on this board with this plan for this pipeline yet, because I don't know that we can afford it, and I want to know the cost.
all right. Any other comments? There's no recommendation to be made by the board.
Nope.
No action. So if with that, we'll go ahead and move on to our next favorite subject, Indian Wells Groundwater Authority, which we may have covered about everything, Chuck, unless you have some thing you would talk about.
Well, our last meeting was on Wednesday, the 23rd. It was delayed, to my understanding, because Director Peters was not going to be available, and another director, so they postponed the meeting till the 23rd. There were several things on the agenda that we discussed. Just to kind of recap it, there was items 10, 11, and 12, and they were all change orders on the pipeline. And so I requested that until the district got the answers to our letter, that we postpone those 3 items, because it was $500,000 in change orders. And I questioned. I said, we've paid $9 million of ratepayers' money, and now we're just going to authorize another $500,000 in change orders. And so I would ask that we table those 3 items, and then we'll vote on them after you guys have addressed our issues. They decided not to do that, so there was a vote on all 3 of those. I did vote no on all 3 of those, but they did pass 4-1. So that was really the only other action besides the AVAC pipeline funding, and that was, I think, item 13 or 12 or 13, and that one eventually, after a long discussion, did get moved until the September meeting. So
Okay.
that's basically a recap of it, I believe.
The one thing I would bring up about is, if it was mentioned to me too, and you asked a question about recycled water. As I understood it from them, they don't want to pursue that. It's one of the projects they looked at, and it's not economical, and they don't want to pursue it. So I would like, I don't want to vote on this, but I'd like a consensus, if possibly, that we move back into the wastewater treatment ourselves and begin working on it again. Now, Chuck Krieger, are you still there?
I am.
Yeah, and I realize that from our last go-around, which is at least, I want to say at least 4 years ago, maybe 5, where we came up with costs and operating costs, I know things have changed. But I still think that if it's something, because I got the impression, Chuck Griffin, Director Griffin, is from what I heard from Director Peters on the GA was that he had no problem with the water district continuing to work on this if we want to. And I think you mentioned with Stetson, but it would also be working with the city as well. If you concur with that?
He did not mention the city. What he said was that he did not have a problem with us working on the wastewater, that they did not. They weren't interested, and I said, we were very interested, and we wanted to keep working on it. And so the way this got brought up was, Keith had made a comment that our staff did not allow the groundwater authority to access our property. And I said that they did, or that they could access our property, that we weren't trying to prevent them from going on our property. And so I did make that comment, and I think we don't have any issues with that ever, but they are allowed to go on. And so I said, but the same thing happened to us. At the previous meeting, we had discussed wastewater, and Chuck Krieger was working with Stetson, and
as soon as that meeting was over, we got an email that we were no longer involved in the wastewater. So are we allowed to be involved? And they said, yes, absolutely. They did not have a problem, is what Director Peters said, that he didn't have a problem with us working on the wastewater.
And I agree that if the board, unless the board disagrees, I think it's something that we ought to begin to look at again. And it may not be economically feasible anymore, but maybe there's methods or something we can do, because I know we have wells we can use if we have to inject or monitor and test. It may help trim the cost a little bit. So again, it's what we always call the low-hanging fruit. And is it something that we can do that makes it economical for us? I would like that we open up those discussions again. And it sounds to me like it begins with Stetson, but I can't believe it won't involve the city. I hate to say it would be sort of moving back 4 years ago where we were and starting again, but I think there's a lot of information that's been done on it. So if the board, if anybody objects to it, I'd like to hear.
I don't object to it. I think that, I don't see a reason why our general manager could not contact the city manager and we could just work with the city.
Yeah.
I would rather us do that and set up a meeting and see what we could work out. I mean, there's plenty of options, and I brought some of them up. And so my concern is even if we can't immediately use that wastewater, there's other usage that we could do with it, whether it be the Navy. Man, this thing's ringing. The Navy, the contractors. I mentioned at the Groundwater Authority meeting that the Viewfinders event. It's a huge event for this town. It's going to be here in 2 weeks. Last year, I was trying to figure this out. They used 1,500 units of water. So if I can get that, I can't make it work. But anyway, that's an enormous amount of water, 1,500 cubic feet of water. That's a lot of water. And if we could use that out of the wastewater that's out at the fairgrounds, there would be huge benefits if we could somehow make an agreement with the city that we could use the water for stuff like this.
So you don't object that?
No.
You don't object that we continue to, let's move on with this again. And if it's got to be, George may contact with the city along with Stetson as well. And let's keep them all involved in this.
And Mr. Krieger.
Yes. Yes, Mr. St. Amand.
If the Groundwater Authority is not interested in pursuing the wastewater reclamation project, what is to prevent us from working with the city directly?
It doesn't, except the city may say, we're not going to work with you directly.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think, is Stetson the engineer for the city?
No.
They're the engineer for the GA.
Right.
And we've been instructed that if we want to pursue this, we have to work with the
George can try.
GA's engineer. Okay.
Yeah, I think we should try.
We just had the assistant city manager
Yeah,
in
we
here
could-
and said he
Well, let's see
loved
if
it when we all worked together.
Let's see if
So
we
I
can't
think
get the
it's a
city to
great
work with
choice.
us directly. If the GA is not interested, I said they should relinquish any interest in the project and we can move forward. And if the city wants to retain Stetson, then that's the city's business.
Okay.
I mean, and, regardless of how other projects go, the ever tightening level of water use restrictions per person coming down from the state, in and of itself are other good reasons to continue looking at other ways to conserve water, regardless of other options for from the Groundwater Authority or from the aquifer perspective. So yeah, I will take that action item to both reach out to the city and talk about this wastewater treatment recycling process and talk to.
Stan, you had some
we
comment?
Good conversations with the J.
I believe that the city is going to be required as a part of the new wastewater treatment plant to do something to use that wastewater for public benefit.
I thought I was going to ask Chuck Krieger to research that and Renee.
I just can't believe, as a matter of fact, that's the reason originally that the city is growing 30 acres of alfalfa is because EPA required them to recycle some water. And after months of negotiations, they agreed to, well, if you just grow something, and the city loses thousands of dollars a year on that effort to bale that hay. So I would think that if the GA has no interest in recycled water, the city doesn't have a choice. They have to do something with that recycled water.
And what's the best thing to do for it?
Yeah. And my other comment regarding the meeting was just to emphasize one of the things that Chuck said. When they extended the scope of 3 of those contracts, I believe the cost, that increased cost, is not in scope of the grant. I think it's like a $7,600,000 grant, and they'd already appropriated or authorized the expenditure of all of that. And what they're counting on is somebody coming in under their amount that they had originally decided to spend, and they're not going to have to take this $500,000 out of something else. But my feeling is that we're probably going to overrun the 7.6 million, and then that 500,000 is going to be on top.
I think they already said they overrun it by 1.5 million just for purchasing land for abatement of a species.
Yeah.
But I agree with you one there, but I think,
But they did insinuate, because I asked that question, and they said that the money was going to come from the grant funds.
yeah.
Because I specifically asked that, because that was my assumption also. And so I asked that question,
And they did answer that it was coming from the grant fund, so
Right.
they did not indicate that they were overdrafted on the funds.
correct.
Right.
I'll go back and listen to
Because
it,
I
but-
was under the same assumption you were,
Okay,
Stan, when I looked at it, and I asked.
Yeah, okay, well, if it's within the grant fund, it's still not good, but, it's better than us paying for it.
You made a comment about what's the requirements for the state now, whether it be from the State Water Resource Board or DWR or Lahontan. I think that if we're in agreement that we want George and his staff to move on with investigating wastewater, I think we'll find that answer. For some reason, in the back of my brain, I thought that SWRB, State Water Resource Board, had some mandatory requirements now for wastewater, just like you said, Stan. You just can't dump it on, and Lahontan, when I spoke with him many, many months ago and talked about just spreading it and like they're doing now, more or less, they just aren't in favor of that. They don't like that idea. So I don't want to go and say what the exact laws are on this, but I think that if we allow George and the staff to move ahead on this, we'll find out. I'd like to know the answer to that.
Let's do it.
All right.
Can I make a final comment on this one real quick?
Yes.
I had the unfortunate circumstance of running a water district that had a really, well, not a water district, an Air Force base, their water system, and they had a poorly designed interconnection with state water, and it resulted in some pretty horrific water quality issues. And so, to the public's comment about we need water, but we also need water that has great aesthetics and is great water for our community. And I know that in my discussions with Director Griffin, he's really focused on that issue as well. So, we worry about the cost to our customers, and we really worry about the water quality. I think I'd like to hope that I can help improve to the public's comment, our relationship with the Groundwater Authority and exchange of technical information. And I got some technical data from them today regarding how they're going to look at water quality and where they're going to look at it. And I found that to be encouraging. But, thank you, Director Griffin, for, your persistence in making sure that when we finally find the solution to this problem that we have, that we end up with the highest quality water that we can.
All right, any other comments, or are we ready to move on? We beat this one up enough? Okay, let's move on to E, comprehensive adjudication. Any report there from our attorney?
Yeah, I'll try to be brief about this. I've been reporting for the past year that we've been trying to have a judge assigned to the case. And I will say that there was a case management
Can I interrupt you for just a second? I want to
You're the president.
I'll let Chuck, I'll let Chuck Krieger know that he can, you can go eat dinner now, Chuck, if you're still there. I think we're done. I want to thank you.
So we had a case management conference on September 1st. We've been having them about every 60 days, and not a lot has occurred. But at this case management conference, we heard a couple days prior that Judge Claster had been assigned as the judge for all purposes. What that means now effectively is that we can start to move the case forward. Without getting into all of the issues that are out there, what will happen now is a number of motions will be brought before the court, determining a number of issues, phases of trial, and other issues that come up, representation, start to figure out everything that's been on hold for a while. There probably will be some determinations with respect to small pumpers. It's hard to exactly say what the arguments are because we haven't seen any papers yet. But the one thing is positive is that we do have a judge, and we're going to have a hearing on November 3rd, pertaining to de minimis pumpers, I believe, and that will be one of the first substantive rulings that this judge will have been able to make in a year, and then we're hopeful that just gets everything moving and we can proceed and try to get a resolution on this. That was the biggest development on the case management, and hopefully we'll have more information to provide now that we've got a judge that can make determinations and also provide us with his thoughts and maybe areas where we should explore. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All right. With that, we'll move on to the general manager and, I'm sorry, well, it's public as well, yeah. Any questions, comments, public? I know. Did everybody hang up on us? No.
Trial's not over yet.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to item F, general manager and staff update.
Thank you, sir. I got the first one. Let's, staff, if I make errors, let me know and correct me. Fortunately, I have these fantastic people over here. So it looks like we produced about 203 million gallons of water in the last month. It has been, well, at the end of August, we had been 239 days without a reportable safety incident. As of today, that's 250 days. And then as we compare our conservation numbers to the baseline year in 2013, this month we are down 33.5%. With respect to our Water Smart program, we had 75 conversations with individuals that were potentially had issues where they may have had leaks, and that included 24 field visits. So another plug for that program. And with that, I think I would say, I got to go on to public outreach. Any questions on that part of my report?
Okay.
With no questions, I'll say for public outreach, I like my coffee, and I am going to start and see how this works. I'm going to start going to a coffee shop locally on the Fridays that we're open. Hopefully, maybe one board member or one of our staff will join me, and we would like to interface, and I'd like to learn from the public. I am new to the community, so I would welcome anyone who wants to come and either educate me on the history or has a question about the district themselves. I had a lot of conversations with our customer support folks, and they say, yeah, they occasionally get people who will get on the phone and demand to talk to the boss, and so they'll have their opportunity. And I look forward to meeting the people in this community and hearing their concerns and their history, and hopefully becoming a part of this community. So that concludes that part of my report.
I have a
Any
comment
questions?
there.
Sure.
I think that there's a number of people who are on the board that we know that if you want to speak to any of the service clubs, such as Rotary, I think Director St. Armand could probably get you a time to speak when at luncheon. I think Stan, maybe with the Republican women. Are you still attending them, the Republican women? So maybe we can get a time when he can introduce himself and come there.
Yeah.
And then we'll look out for any other clubs. Chamber of Commerce, there's no problem with maybe getting set up for maybe one of their luncheons. You can make a short little spiel if you want to. So just keep in mind, we have a lot of people here who know a lot of contacts for getting you on those as well.
I'll get you set up, George.
I think we should let him unpack first before we do it.
There's no time for that.
It's hard to say that I'm not unpacked. I can't talk. I'm more than happy to. I want to sort of take a little time to get my thoughts together about the things I'd like to say, but, I think they'll all be positive, and I'm finding this to be a fantastic community, so it should be great, and I look forward to it. Who takes the number 3? Is that mine as well?
It is.
Okay, I'm going to throw in the towel and say, I don't really have much to report on this one, primarily because I'm new and I'm not really up to speed on all of the issues here. So I might defer to staff. I know I had heard some stuff that the variance for evaporative coolers, there had been some changes in the regulatory language suggested, maybe not everything to our liking, but somewhat lesser than some of the previous legislative suggestions that required things like everybody take photographs and serial numbers and all this other crazy stuff.
It seemed like they removed the mandate that you have exactly what kind of cooler it was and all the CFM requirements, and now it's more of you can do a selection of your customers and then extrapolate that out to the system.
So that'll be, still sounds a little onerous, but it's better.
Orders of magnitude better.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's moving in the right direction.
The potential strategic planning effort, that's the one that Director St. Armand and is working on. So I know you guys may have not met yet, and I know with Mel what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been very busy.
And plus, you really need to know this information we were talking about costs at the potential cost of the GA as well.
Well, I think they were waiting for our new general manager to arrive.
That's just an excuse. Did I just whisper? I should have done that.
On the microphone. That was your outside voice, Director.
Yeah, I know.
I appreciate that, Stan. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. If there are no more comments from the public
All right.
anywhere else, I think I have made it through my first
You did good.
You did good.
time and didn't fall completely down.
All right. Where are we? Booster stations and tank projects.
All right, we have a couple of photos that you can see that our motor control center, the MCC, was delivered.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it there, and in the next photo also. No, that is the wrong one. I must have put the wrong one.
Oh, that's my office.
Yeah, whose office is that? Yeah.
That is inside the booster building, but
Oh,
that was
is it?
not the one I meant to show. I meant
Yeah.
to show the MCC, but that's okay. So it was delivered at the end of August. They've been, working on completing the electrical and also the connection piping, chlorinating. They chlorinated last week. They did flushing today, and they do plan on testing, bacteriological testing tomorrow. So that's a pipeline that's like on the north side of the road there on Javis, and also piping inside the building. And at the college tank, the piping for the old tank, there were some modifications for that. That was disinfected and flushed and sampled last week, and we did get the results today. So it looks like we're good to go for getting the tank itself cleaned out and starting that process of getting that tank back in service.
And you got those painted properly? Did you consult with Mr. Kite?
Well, the outside paint was done some time ago.
I know. I hadn't heard anything wrong with it, so it's probably right. Thank you. Well, 33.
Yes, well 33, Best Drilling and Pump finished their work back almost a month ago now. It was right after the board meeting. So since then, staff has been working on disinfecting and flushing the well and making sure we can get it back in service. And I don't know if they finished the bacteriological testing on that yet, but Jason would be able to say. Have not, okay.
Getting close
But it
to
is
it.
ready to go and it can pump water.
Great. That's the main thing.
Yep.
It's always nice we have wells that can pump water. All right, financial status.
Through August of 2023, we have received revenues of 2.187 million, which is 164,000 better than budget. On the expenditure side, we came in at 2,065,000, which is 920,000 below budget. So our net is 122,000, which is better than budget by 1,085,000. And then we have capital expenditures of 292,000 and debt service principal of 185,000. So right now, on track, at least on the revenue side, below budget on expenditures, and we'll continue to monitor these new rates as the months go on.
That's right, because we're July, August, September now, right? That's the compilation here? Yeah. Or, yeah, July and August is all.
July and August.
Yeah, okay. All right. Conservation? Anything to report?
Yeah, for calendar year 2023, we've had 61 water waste reports received, 61 contacts made, 23 warnings issued, and 7 penalties issued.
Okay. No comments? All right, back to the transmission line now. I think we may have covered some of that, but
Covered a lot of it, but,
Yeah.
so we're currently looking at the most economical and efficient possible method to replace the new current transmission pipeline. Currently, replacing the pipeline with HDPE is projected to be around 25 to 30 weeks. That's with a 10-week lead time on getting pipe and materials, and it is a rough estimate of $4.65 million. We're still waiting for a cost estimate for the fusible PVC. But if it's any indication, we did a rough estimate to perform the pipeline replacement in-house with 24-inch bell and spigot PVC. The pipeline alone would be 3.7 million. So bringing equipment rental and everything that we would have to do, disposal, would be around $5 million to do it in-house.
okay.
So we'll work out more of the details as we get like what the fusible PVC cost is, and we'll see which direction we want to go.
And it sounds to me like if we can keep that near the $5 million range, that with the $3 million we have from the state, that we have budgeted capital money that we have to move around though, right? We're going to have to put something off to, is that true, Ty?
Yeah, we'll have to put something off, even doing the financing, because we only have a capacity of about 7.7 million
Right.
in financing. So there will be a project that'll be pushed off.
And you're still looking, like you said, for any funds that might be available to
Absolutely.
finance or such like that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to fund this without having to borrow money.
Yeah. But it takes a load off me because I just pictured that when we hit that $16 million thing, just like me, like saying, oh my gosh. When you realize that's to meet all the federal standards and where you have to buy everything and I can understand that, but this is getting more in line. And you say, did I hear you say, how many, 25 to 30 weeks? Is that what you said?
For the HDPE replacement,
Yeah.
25 to 30 in-house would probably take another 10 weeks or so.
And we have no anticipated starting date yet?
Not until we know which direction we're going to go with what
Okay.
pipe we're going to use.
And the funding.
Yeah, and funding, the money to pay for it. But I also need to point out the 4.65 million does not include inspection.
Okay.
So it may be about 5 million.
That's what I
each.
said, about 5 million. Okay. Gotcha. Any other questions about the transmission line? Nope, nothing? All right, water shortage contingency plan. What's that, is that the one that you're currently working on with, Jim will have the update? I think they're planning something over there. You're on, Jim. That's okay, take your time.
You guys need to tell me these things.
Water shortage contingency plan.
Oh, I'm sorry. All this is just a placeholder to let you know that the revisions to the draft water shortage contingency plan are just about finalized. When they do that, we're going to go ahead and start the 60-day notice by notifying the counties and the city of Ridgecrest that it's available for review. And I think, Renee, the estimate is there's some wait period, so ultimately the board will have the opportunity to take a look at it, but what it's looking like is we'll bring it to the board for approval at the December board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Arsenic treatment.
Back to the media, staff continues to work on sifting the media, and today began construction of a shaker to help expedite that process. So the plan is to take this off-season to sort the media out and get the vessels loaded and have it ready to go for the next season.
Okay.
For the month of August, Plant 2 treated 49,572,000 gallons. We're averaging about 50 million a month.
Okay. And when do they go down for the season?
When it gets cold.
Usually it gets cold. Well, no, yeah, when it gets cold. Oh, never?
Yeah, well, as the nights get colder, the valves don't work as well, so they go offline.
Okay. I thought we had some cool evenings showing up and all of a sudden, boom, that changed, yeah. All right, operations.
For the month of August, we had 15 repairs and 35 replacements. We had 34 valves turned, bringing our year-to-date to 169. The no-days ran twice, filtering 30,030 gallons, bringing our grand total to 8,977,305 gallons saved.
Amazing. How old is that truck now?
Yeah,
6 years, 7 years, still working fine?
Yeah. I mean, we've replaced a few things on it. The pump had to be replaced on it. You know, we obviously replaced the filter bags every so often,
But it's all the parts replaceable so that we can keep this thing for many years. Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments or questions, either from the public or the board, for the manager's report? All right, we'll move on to board comments and future agenda items. I'll start with you, Mr. St. Amand, any comments?
Well, I think along with the rest of the board, I'd like to express gratitude to the city for the recognition for the efforts of the staff during the recent rainstorm. I've had the opportunity to attend the Emergency Services Committee meetings where a lot of the governmental and private organizations get together to coordinate responses to potential disasters. And one of the points they bring up is that it's much easier to respond to these things if you've met the people that are going to be helping you. So I'd like to encourage our general manager to attend at least one Emergency Services Committee meeting. I'll let you know when the next one is, just to introduce yourself. And I now will move on to my usual closing statement. As a participant in the Emergency Services Committee, the recommendation there is 30 days worth of food and water in your house. And that can be accomplished without too much expense, especially if you were focusing on canned goods and that sort of thing that you eat on a regular basis. You don't need to buy MREs or freeze-dried foods, but you should have about a month's worth of supplies in your house. So I base that on the fact that the disaster fiction section of the bookstore has now been moved to current events. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Let me know when,
Mr. Retorno.
one of those meetings.
I have nothing.
Nothing? Mr. Griffin?
Yes, I just want to say thank you. At the beginning of our meeting in closed session, you had a moment of silence for 9/11, and I sure appreciate that you did that. And I just want to recognize that this was a very sad day in history, and we're one hell of a country, so
Yep.
God bless the United States. Other than that, I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Okay, all I'd like to say is I thank the city for the recognition to the district, especially the staff, and I want to personally thank the staff as well. That's what we're all about over here, and I truly appreciate it. We're going through some changes, got a new general manager, I'm sure that we're all going to weather this well, we're all going to learn something new, and we're going to move ahead on all these issues we're dealing with. So with that, I'm going to close the meeting at 7:38.